Three, two, one, and action. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Light Bearers with your hosts, Kay Ola and myself, the lovely Afro Thunder, or if you call me Geo. So how you doing, Kay?
I'm doing great. I've got my mom over this weekend. She just popped over to the show. She's come down to visit me from London with some love, so that's
okay.
good.
So where exactly again are you out in England?
I'm in Gloucestershire, in a little town called Cheltenham.
Okay, so how far is that from London?
It's about a 2.5, 3 hour drive. I just choose
But,
to be, I don't know, I just choose to be far away from everything because that's the kind of person I am.
Yeah, same here, mate. I mean, I live in a small city right now called Akoshi, out in the prefecture of Hyogo in Japan. And you know, my house is right smack in the middle of a bamboo forest, about maybe a 10-minute walk from the coast. And it's it's woods. Like if I right now it's 8:15 p.m. So if I go outside right now, it's all dark. It's just dark. And when I have one neighbor and he's way the hell over there. And so if I want to blast music, whatever. But see, I also don't like being close to the city. Like I'm not an urban person. The fact that I grew up on a farm in South America, Colombia, with a village of about, at the time, like 500 people. And that was begging for like an overpopulation right there. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, and
yeah, but the tranquility of living in those kind of places.
Yeah, and it's amazing. And I remember when I first went to kindergarten, like I only went to kindergarten one day because I used to hang around with my grandfather at the time. I was living with my grandfather due to my grandparents separating me from my parents. There was some domestic violence going on. And so my grandparents was like, nah, if you're not going to love him, then let us take him. And so they took me from New York to Colombia. And so I used to hang out with my grandfather, just my grandfather and I in this farm. And he used to get up in the morning and go rope the cows and stuff like that. And so he can milk them. And anyway, so it was time for me to go to kindergarten. And he took me to kindergarten on the back of his mule. You know what I mean? Wow. And so I got used to that. And when I turned 8, upon turning 8 years old, my parents wanted another chance at raising me. And so they sent me to, my parents moved from New York to California. And so my grandparents put me on the airplane, and one of the stewardess was in charge of watching me till I got to California. And then my parents would pick me up from there, as there would be a handoff. It sounds like some kind of like, how do you call it? Like a kidnap victim and shit. Let's do this. And anyway, and so I remember getting there and just going from this life where, you know, where I opened the door to my room. Normally you open the door to your bedroom and it's, you know, your living room. And then you got the kitchen. You're still in walls, confined by a house. This house was different. All the bedrooms led to the front of the house area, like kind of like a living room and dining room would be there. But all that area had no walls, mate. It just had a roof. Yeah, and it looked out right onto all our property, which was avocado trees and tangerines and guavas. And our shower was, one of the old relative had dug a hole into the wall and then covered it with rock, you know, melted concrete, with concrete and then rocks as stairs. And then there was a hole for a drain that went straight into the creek. And so we got our water from the top of the hill that came through the creek, and my relatives connected this canal based out of tile that was bring the water. And so you have to get in down into this hole, and then the water, it was just like a waterfall coming onto your head. And that was how I grew up, you know. And so if I wanted to play, I just run outside and climb trees. And I went from that. Suddenly one day I'm in Los Angeles, California, concrete jungle, stuck in an apartment all the time. And after a couple months, my dad started beating me up again. And I lost my I lost my mentality. By the time I turned 12, I was doing some pretty horrendous things in school. Like I started acting violent and wanted to experience what my dad was doing to me. I wanted to experience to see how powerful, like,
on someone else.
Yeah, I wanted to train myself so that I could come back and kill my father, and it was a survival thing. And so I did something really bad at school where, I went to school with a hood and a bandana, and I dressed like a ninja. And so I had gotten inspired by these ninja movies. And so my whole thing was to become a ninja so that I can get my dad finally, because only a ninja could beat my dad, I thought, That's how innocent my mind was, but I was serious about it. This was the solution, mate. And this is leading to what we're going to talk about today, which is the imagination, the power of the imagination. And so my imagination got working, and I transformed myself into this ninja. And I went to school and I acted out the scene of this movie played by Sho Kosugi, and it was Ninja 3 Domination, where I was getting revenge and shit.
Coach, Rocky loves Emily.
Yeah,
Rocky loves Rocky, right? And Tom Tom.
Well, what happened?
That ninjas.
No, this movie, there was Ninja 1, Enter the Ninja, Ninja 2, Revenge of the Ninja.
Oh, Ninja 1, I got 3 ninjas, those kids.
Nah. And this was Ninja.
Rocky Coat and Tom Tom.
Nah. This was the and so Ninja Part 3 was the Domination. And so I went to school and I punched the window of the door, which had like little wires inside, and I was able to crack it, and then my sister was in the classroom, and I didn't get on with my sister either, because they kind of divided us so that we can get at each other and snitch at each other, and then it was kind of really bad times for me when I was a kid. But anyway, so I thought, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and do this. And then the teacher come out, all the students like, oh shit, look, because they're junior high school kids, mate. And they're like in 2nd grade of junior high school, and they come out and they're like, there's a ninja outside. This was the 1980s, mate. And so I assume all the positions, and I started doing all the signs and shit, go, ooh. And I mean, I can't, that's how my mind was going, the imagination that I had at the time, that would hopefully I could transform myself and survive what was happening at home. And so the teacher came out, and then my sister came out, and she started crying, mate. She's like, that's my brother. And as I say this, I get a little bit choked up, man, because it's very impactful for me. And so they went back inside, and I had like this butter knife stuck right here, and then I took it out like a ninja star and shit. And I laugh at it because it's retarded what I did, but you'll see where it came from. And I'm glad I didn't hurt anybody, man. And so I threw this thing, and actually it went right pretty well, dude. And it missed her like by that much. And so then no, the teacher. And so then I ran and climbed up over this 12-foot fence and literally jumped off, because I was trying to do exactly the movie, mate. And so here are the positive. There are good things about movies and bad things. It's not the movies itself, but it's what's happening in the child's mind, that some things can trigger things like that, and they can act them out to escape their brutal reality. And so I went to the front of the school, hid under the cars, and I was being surrounded by all the staff of the school, but I got away, dude. And I did the signs again, and then I had written this note, and I had figured out how to make a Molotov cocktail, bro, by watching somebody make it in a movie. And so I wrote this like revenge plan. I said, I'm going to go off into the mountains now and train for 7 years. 7 was the magic number. And then I'm going to come down, and I'm going to get revenge on everybody, especially my father, my mother. And then I'm going to come back, and I'm going to kill everyone in this school. And so the teacher was like, this is some serious shit. And so they called the cops, and they put me in juvenile hall, but because they didn't know where else to put me. And so finally my parents said, my mom said, like, you're destroying your son. just send him back to Colombia.
To his grandparents.
So they sent me back there, and by that time I was just too damaged, and thing just unrolled to be told that to be continued. But now we're going about let's talk a little bit about the topic today, which is the imagination of children, or the imagination of just the average human being, the importance of it, and the importance of not destroying it at an early age, and the power of the imagination. I'll let you take over on this topic for a little bit and give me your thoughts on what I just said.
The imagination. Yeah, I like you brought up a lot of points about the imagination. It's a place that the imagination is meant to be a center for your creativity, for you to be able to comprehend the things that you can't immediately see with your eyes, but you can comprehend can be a possibility, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Imagination is a place where you almost brew your ideas and you make them into a tea that comes out to manifest. But what people, and I'm taking this from your story, what people are doing now, they're turning the imagination into a place of escapism, because it's not about creativity anymore. It's about escaping oppression.
That's a good point, mate. Keep going, mate.
So that's why I realized that they're destroying the imagination. The imagination is a nation of images. It's a nation where we produce images and those images become reality. That's the whole point. We fester on these imaginations, and they're meant to become manifestations through the way we project that energy. It happens. Through the way we believe in that energy, the way we believe in that idea, we put our best foot forward and we make it happen. But what parents, teachers, and people above us are doing, and they don't realize, is damaging people. You're creating a very brutal environment for people, and all they have left is the imagination. If you take away a kid's physical power, what's he got left? You take away his physical power because you're older than him, you're going to beat him up. He can't fight back. He can't argue with you because mentally you're sharper than him. So the only thing he's got to run back to where he feels safe is his imagination. And if he's using that imagination to escape reality, that's causing a very bad pattern, in my opinion. And I'm saying this because I went through this too. Was the escapism. And it can lead to problems in life. It can lead to people, because now, once you become on the path of escapism, what's next? Start taking drugs. What's next? You start living out fantasies that are just ludicrous.
Yes.
But that's a survival mechanism. I call it ludicrous, but at the moment, it doesn't seem crazy when you're doing it. Because at the moment, that's the way you're surviving. That's the way you're coping and keeping yourself balanced.
Yes.
So people above, people that in charge of, when you're in charge of somebody, you have to look at it like this. It's a big responsibility. When you have somebody that's very vulnerable, very sensitive, like a parent with a child, I think it's very wrong for you to oppress them to the point where they have to lean on their imagination. Because at that point, the imagination is very vulnerable. It's still early. It's not developed yet. And you're making it do like a serious job of having to decide that this is the fantasy I'm going to create. The imagination is not even ready for that yet.
Well, I'm glad you point that out, that because a lot of people say, oh, the kids, their imagination is beautiful, so don't destroy it, which is good. But like you said, where if their environment is so bollocksed up for them, so brutal, that they have to go back and rely to create a new reality so that they can escape. They're just like their mind in general, their imagination is not developed yet. They haven't got the wisdom. Like anything, it needs to be developed. And it's okay to give a little freedom to kids, for kids to develop their imagination, but they also need guidance, as long as it's not corrupt guidance, to make sure that these kids or somebody watching them, or that to monitor children's development, so that they don't just fall off on their imagination and end up in a pit of hell,
Yes.
What I like to what I call it, a crypt of death, or a crypt of eternity, where they can't come back from that, where that's gonna spill over onto their adult lives and stuff like that, and the way they interact with their peers, their own families.
Just the way they.
Yeah, I'm glad you.
In the head.
Yes, yes, yes. And I'm glad you brought that out. And we look at escapism. I'm taking some notes as you go by, because there's some as you were speaking, because there's some
Hmm.
important points here. And
Hmm.
this is a very important topic, as
It
our
is.
mind is the strongest thing we have. And but it can also be dangerous if
It's
not
very.
used, yes, if not used properly. And it can be dangerous when used against you, when your own mind is used against you. And that's what we see happening right now. When you talk about escapism, what's going on right now is all the environment is so brutal. The imagination of people has been, or the development of their imagination to do something constructive with their lives or be creative. Imagination and creativity are two different things, but they're intertwined. So we
Yeah.
create out of our imagination. But when our imagination is not developed in a sense to create things that are good, the imagination is only there as a vivid thing to escape the bars of the brutal world. And what is happening is that, yeah, let's control that imagination where it doesn't become creative. This is what our environment is causing now. And so what they do instead, what's being offered instead, and that's why media is so, you notice why, oh, well, we can't cure these diseases, but we can pretty much do anything with our computers and our freaking screens and all this stuff.
Yeah.
The entertainment media outlet is being so developed, and it's the best thing. I mean, the best thing in your house is your excuse my language, your motherfucking TV, mate. The
And you're.
TV is like, like it can do everything. It can scratch your back if you want, if you asked it to. And the reason for that is, instead going back, instead of being a creator, they are offering you worlds to escape, kind of
Yes.
like a drug. A drug. So okay, let me
It,
escape
it's
now.
a
Where
drug.
it is a drug. Let me take some of this virtual LSD and then go out into like Papa Smurf land for a little bit.
Yes.
Comment a little bit about that, mate.
So you just said it. So they've taken it further from just oppressing people and making their minds go into oppression. Now they've developed, like you just said, instead of developing the imagination and creativity, they've developed escapism tools. So they've developed the TVs to the point that the technology is so strong. There's no flutter. There's no distraction. Nothing. It's not gonna buffer slowly. Once you watch that TV, you're in escape land, and you could be there for hours. You could be there for days. The time that is going is the time you was meant to be creative. The time you were sat there watching the TV, that was when you was meant to be festering ideas and creating things.
Yeah, and
So
you never get your time back, mate. You're never gonna, even a second. You're not gonna
it's
get
gone,
it back.
gone
Yeah.
forever. It's gone forever.
Yeah, keep
So
taking off on that.
what
Like
is,
you hit a good point there with the time. That time. Keep taking off on that, mate.
so what going along what you said, so all they're doing is focusing on creating more avenues for the human to escape. So the TV, that wasn't good enough, so they gave us the mobile phone. That mobile phone is probably even worse. Because now, yeah, just get on a bus, go anywhere, and you watch people. They don't even look at you anymore. This is them. Some people are even falling into ditches because they're on their phone.
Yeah, yeah.
Watch on you. You'll see clips of people nearly killing themselves because they're on their phone.
Well, it's a trip, mate, about now that you say that, that's even a better way. People are more separated from each other. Yes, we have this communication through the media where we can talk to each other at far as distance, but our social interactions are becoming even weirder. And I don't care
Yep.
what anybody said. Like, okay, some people might say, there's a bloke, a mate of mine that I know. It's like, yeah, but every generation has something positive. You didn't do this back then, but through this we can talk to each other at different distance. It's not that the advantages are not being denied, but I think that the bad aspects of it, the destructive aspects of it, are more pervasive than the positive aspects of it. And people don't know how to interact with each other. They don't know how to really reasonably argue with each other. And I think that's what you're seeing, everybody just kind of screaming at each other, because they're used to just being like keyboard warriors and talking, okay, if I don't like you, if I don't like this, I'm just going to click you off and stuff like that. And so when they actually get to meet each other, look what we do. We start burning each other's houses and stuff like that, and start fighting with each other even more than ever, mate.
Yes, because I know we don't believe, when we talk on this podcast, we normally say that separation is not good, yeah? But we must acknowledge that there's a thing called culture. If I'm from the west part of Africa, we do things a certain way. If you're from the south of Africa, we do things a certain way. And the reason why birds of a feather flock together is because they can understand each other with the least resistance.
Yes.
This bird, he's going to follow this bird because he already knows what this bird does at 9 o'clock in the morning. And he knows what he does at 10 o'clock in the evening. So he's not going to be confused, like, what's he doing? But if he goes over to the south, he will be confused.
Yeah.
So now this social media thing, they've put a platform where everybody can come together. First of all, I might be from the south. You might be from the east. I have no idea how you operate over there. And instead of us to come to an agreement and say, okay, you tell me what you do, I'll tell you what I do. It's all about, no, mine is better than yours. So you've already put, that's the reason why people are different tribes. And when they came together, they would fight, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Because it was like, my belief is different from yours. So we're going to fight each other. And then whoever wins is the stronger belief.
Yes.
On social media, so it's kind of changed the game. So instead of us fighting each other, we're going to argue, because I've got my beliefs from the south, you've got yours from the east. I'm not going to back down because it's all about the south, it's all about the east. And then in the midst of that argument, somebody comes from the west. He comes into the same, because the media allows all of us to connect. So now we've got east, west, north, south, all in one room, all with 4 different arguments. So you see, when you put together in such a proximity, without understanding each other's cultures, there's a problem there. The key word, understanding each other's cultures.
Yes. Well, and that's great. I'm glad you talk about, like, you know, separation is good. I think this whole, and I live in Japan, man. I've been here for 20 years, and you know, I respect a lot of the culture here. Few things I just kind of just don't go with the flow. I just kind of do. There's some things that can't be changed, but overall, I respect the way these people live. You know, I respect their traditions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
As long as they're not, you know, just what we got to try to understand, culture doesn't necessarily, it's not synonymous with good. Okay, with goodness. Because some countries it might be within their culture to, you know, to cut your balls off.
And
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, and it's how, well, we'll do this. Like when the boys turn 21 after their first baby, we cut their balls off and respect our culture. You know, that there's, as long as the cultural practices are wholesome and display a beautiful part of that that people, yeah, they have to be respected. And I like the way Japan does it here. They don't really welcome, and they're really careful with their immigration. They don't want to just have like what we have in the States or in some of the Western countries. Well, you look at what's happening, mate. So now, like the people that had culture there, like the Europeans, they're trying to say like their culture's bad, and so people are coming from other countries and pretty much just not abiding by their way of life, which I think it's wrong, mate. If you don't like where you're at, you know, and if you can't follow at least 90% of the culture's belief, and you know, then you need to just, you know, kick some rocks, you know, hit the road, mate. You know,
forced to stay.
Exactly. But anyway, so yeah, this understanding, you know, we're talking about let's go back to the thing, the entertainment. Yeah, so now this lack of ability of talking to each other through the media, although we can talk to each other like this, one thing is talking to you on the camera, and another thing is talking to you in person. You can smell each other, you can see, you can feel threat, or you can feel love much more closer, because it's you know, you can see the contour of the person, the skin, everything. That's part of human interaction.
Right.
And I think that's being lost, and we're being and so because we can't deal with that, we create these easy worlds to 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 have relationships, and people are having relationships with like Pikachu and stuff like that, mate.
Yeah.
You know,
Because
with
you might as well, if you're talking to somebody online that you're never gonna meet, you might as well have one with Pikachu. What's the difference?
well, because also, you know, Pikachu won't argue with you. You can also create yourself the way you want to. You know, people are no longer happy with themselves. You know, okay, I don't like the way I am in this society. I just work at this place and that place, but in this world, I'm going to be the hero. But the problem is that they don't learn how to be the hero in real life, and it's because their imagination wasn't turned on as a
Yes,
creative resource.
was an escape resource. And when you come into that sort of imagination, that's where we have rebellion, self-sabotage. So at this point, if you're escaping your parents mentally, I don't care what good advice they give you, you're not listening to it. Because if you've already put yourself in an escape mentality, if your dad even comes to you, son, go to university, I'm going to invest in you, you're thinking is, mate, this guy that used to beat me up, I ain't doing nothing, he says. You know?
Yeah, that's, I'm glad you said that, man. You're hitting on some points that is, it's like at this time you're just being my like psychologist and my therapist, because it's just hitting at that
I know.
you rebel. It's like, hey, dude, why would I listen to you when you used to have me learn the multiplication tables? And this is a true story, man. But what I want you guys to know is that I got to forgive my father, and that'll be another story. And that's the beauty of it. That's what this podcast is all about. But at the time, this, you know, he should listen to advice from this bloke you're thinking, from this geezer, right? Because that's what I thought about him after a while, after I turned an adult. Like, I was like, he's just a geezer. I didn't even think he was my dad anymore. But the back part of my heart was hurting. Like, all I wanted was my dad. You know, why weren't you there? I just wanted to play with you and go fishing and stuff like that, because I saw beautiful aspects of him. But you know, you're saying like, yeah, the rebellion aspect. And so this guy used to make me memorize my multiplication tables while you take a pencil or a screwdriver and then start driving it through my hand, mate.
If you get it wrong, yes.
Yeah, you know, and so it's like, and you're trying to give me some like
Some
advice. Yeah,
hey,
so then you end up, like you said, sabotaging yourself because you rebel, but without a proper, without enough wisdom and experience in the mind. Instead of having an actual intellectual or intelligent rebellion that will be constructive, it's an emotional rebellion that comes out of trauma, and it ends up being destructive.
It's very destructive, because you take it further. What you do, it starts with your dad, and then when you get to the point where you move out of your house, you don't have to deal with your dad. It becomes anybody in authority, because anybody in authority represents your dad.
Yes.
Anybody that do this is what you do, and you do it. Yeah, that's my dad, and I'm not listening to him.
And well, you know, it's amazing, because that's exactly what I did, and I ended up destroying my life completely, and having a nervous, you know, mental collapse, nervous breakdown, and then doing a really serious suicide attempt where I just took my hunting knife and just slit my wrist. And by the love of God, the vice principal or the principal of my school, no, the vice principal of the school that I was teaching at the time here in Japan, he just got a strange feeling like, you know, let me go visit Gio. He don't sound, you know, I just have a bad bit. And my door was open and he showed up and he saved my life, mate.
God loves you. God, he didn't just have a feeling, he was directed to you.
Yeah, and here's the thing.
Not your time.
Exactly. Well, here's the thing is that energy, that rebellious energy, you know, there's a time for conflict and there's a time for non-conflict. And I had been fighting my whole life and I got used to it. Anybody that got in front of me and tell me this, I was going to fight him because that was my dad. And I did that with my whole life with my marriages. But here's the thing. You look at professional fighters, fighting is not a career you can do for a long time, because what happens to
It's
your
not.
body?
Yeah, it
What
deteriorates. It breaks.
exactly? And so I just started deteriorating, breaking down, losing energy. And so you, like you say, that rebelliousness that's not constructive, to do something constructive with it, and that doesn't come from a point of a developed mind, you
Mm-hmm.
end up taking the pencil and driving it down your own hand, mate.
Yes, because the imagination is, like you said, is one of the most powerful faculties we have. So if you don't use it to positive, it will eat you up. It's so powerful that you have to know what you're doing with it. It's not something you can just ignore, because if you ignore it, it will do its own thing.
Yeah,
You have to control it.
it's
It's a
like it's like Frankenstein. It's alive. It's
yes. I
alive.
it's just there when you know it's alive. It's making decisions.
Yeah, well, it's cool that you say that, man, because and that's the problem nowadays. It's like kind of society tools that we have. Society was meant for us. Now we're serving society. You know,
Yes,
money was a tool that we created for our benefit. Now
serving it.
we're serving money. It's alive. It's all alive. In the mind, it's the same thing. We're supposed to be the drivers of the mind.
Yes,
The mind is our vehicle to achieve greatness, beauty, and transformations beyond our wildest dreams. Because as we're looking at some of the scriptures and some of the ancient, teachings, and we'll go
yes,
back, as we said before, we're not pushing any specific religion here, but I get a lot of my beauty
yes.
quotes from the Bible, and we'll touch on some topics. We're going to talk a little bit about Buddha too, but
Exactly.
when we're looking at, and God created man in his own image after his own likeness. So, monkeys create monkeys and they act like monkeys, right?
Yes.
Alligators make alligators after their own image and they do alligator stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and so because we are the children of our creator, of their all is, because that's what it is. All is the everything, the it, you know. Uh, we are like him and we create with this
Yes.
mind. We are
Yes.
creators. We were given this body to actually, God created this stuff, and he wanted somebody in his love and wisdom. It's like, you know what? I'm going to make another creation so that they can experience physically like no other being, because angels can't, spirits cannot
Oh, they're robots.
experience. It's like, I'm going to make something really special, and these are going to be my kids, but after my own image. That means that they can do things that I can do within that
Yes.
realm. And
Yes.
so he wanted us to experience the beauty that he made. But he gave us something that was extremely powerful to create things with our
Yes.
will, as long as it's within the will of God. And that's what you're talking about now, is that it can be dangerous if not guided properly.
Yes.
And
Very
we
dangerous.
have that freedom to be able to create and destroy with this. You say, so now that mind, you ever just chill out sometimes and you just want to chill, and you're lying down, and then suddenly your brain is having like a conversation and an argument, and you're like, and you're just like, dude, shut up. And
Yep.
you're trying to quiet the mind, and now we're talking
And you
about,
can't. It's on its own tangent.
and that it's thinking about solving problems and what this dude did to me, and then you start making a little argument with it, like a fantasy argument with him in this corner.
Yep.
And over here you're thinking about the chick that was on the train and her awesome stockings, and right here you start thinking, you know what I mean? And you're
Yes.
just, and your mind has taken control of you, and within that universe, while you're thinking like that, guess what? It's sending little messages through your body, and you're stressing out
Yes.
and creating tension out of this situations.
Yeah. It's still manifesting regardless. Something will be created from that imagination. It's going to create great things outwardly or self-destruction. One of the two.
Exactly. Exacto mundo. And so now that we've talked about that, I'm gonna go into like a few little things that we can do. Okay, we can share with you, and these are things that are prevalent among all religions. And if we're looking at religions, when the great religions that are established right now, in the old days we had the mystics, but the main people that were ruling or creating the religion used to persecute the mystics and call them like they're dangerous, they're bringing evil spirits and stuff like that. And what the mystics really focused on was spirituality, mysticism, the union, a real relationship that you could actually experience, not a virtual relationship like what we have right now, but an actual tangible relationship that you can experience and grow with God, and not just read it in a book, but feeling it in the trees and interact with them, because what? We were created after his own likeness. And why can't we also have that spiritual experience and mystical and what we call magical, if it's aligned within the proper spirit? And so the mystics have always been maligned. You know, the shaman, oh, they're the voodoo masters. They're the black magics. What's your opinion on that, on the mystics and the loss of mysticisms in all the great religions, mate?
Yes, the mystics, they were sometimes these guys were ahead of their time, you know. Some of these great mystics were ahead of their time. We've had them from Abraham to Moses to Isaiah. I'm just talking about the Bible now.
Yeah,
we can mix them up. We had Buddha.
oh,
we had
hell, oh yeah,
we had Lord Shiva. We had Jesus Christ.
yeah,
You know, and these guys, in my opinion, these were beings that were ahead of their time. When I say ahead of their time, they came in at a time when the human psyche was wrong, because they're not really ahead of their time. We was always meant to be the creators, because that was all God made us for.
yes,
there was never a time where we're meant to be the way we are. So they were not ahead of their time. They just came at a time when things were going bad.
yes,
You
yes,
know?
yes, yes.
And these mystics, just like the first person that said, like we said before, the first person that said the world was round, he was put on a stake, killed. So the mystics will seem like, wait, this is common knowledge. Everybody knows that we believe in carnality, vanity, greed, suffering, oppression. And here's this guy coming telling us, no, actually the way it's meant to be is you're meant to love your neighbor, you're meant to look out for your brother. Already this guy is going against the system. Whoever's making money, this is not good for business. Whoever's trying to keep people under control, this is not good for business. So other than the fact that he's doing stuff different from everyone else, he's also causing problems within the established system.
Yeah. Well, I mean, kind of like when Jesus, he went up to the temple, and so the temple had become corrupt because, you know, it's kind of like when you go to like a Catholic church or like the major big ones, not a small one, or like some of even out here, the Buddhist temples, they got all these different sects and stuff. And then you go and it's like they have the shop, and it's all about pay here and pay this and pay that. And it's like, and Jesus was like, hey, dudes, you know, he got pissed off. It's like, you guys are selling the pigeons here, or the animals for sacrifice and all. This is a house of praying and worship, and you've turned it into, not that he was against making a living or anything. And that's where people think, oh, he was messing with people's, like, you know, way of living, but they were missing the point. That wasn't it. Is that there was no spirit going on in there. It has become a business. So instead of offering spirituality and embracing that mystical experience that we have with God and trying to guide people on that, they brought out dogma. Ding, dong, ding, dong. And they said, well, you follow this dogma and these rules, and that's it, and we'll talk to God for you.
Yes.
We'll let you know what he says, mate. Okay. So meanwhile, just drop a little bit of coinage in the bucket.
It's like God for us. After creating a system of destroying people's capabilities, they now started talking to God for us. But we never needed translators. We're all his children, so we can all speak to him. We don't need a medium.
Thank you, it's just like saying okay, I want to talk to me mom or me dad, right? You know, and well, I can't talk to me mom, I can't talk to me, you can't talk to your mom, mate. You need I'll talk to your mom for you. It's like
Yes,
I don't need a what do you call that, what's the word for it,
the mediator.
a mediator, or oh man, I'll get the word will surface later. But yeah, I don't need a mediator, someone in between. And so, what are you getting out of it?
Yeah,
You know what I
that's
mean?
one thing I know about middlemen. One thing I know about middlemen, there's
Yeah, here
always
we go.
something,
Yeah, I don't, I
always a
don't,
problem.
I don't need a liaison. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that's me mom, mate. That's my old mom, so I can talk to her.
he's making a profit. Believe me, no one's wasting their time doing that for nothing, because these people haven't got a heart of love now. It's all about greed. So if
Yeah,
somebody's saying, I'm going to do this for you, trust me, it's not, it used to be love, but now, believe me, there's a monetary gain. There's something
yes,
they're gaining. Otherwise, you
yeah.
will not get any of their time.
Yeah, that's, and so, well, now that
Okay.
we're talking about the mysticism, me recently, like I thought there's always something that's prevented, like like I've got my Bible again. I started reading different texts and stuff like that, and now go to church, but just something just doesn't click with me at church. Even whether it's the Protestant church, even the Buddhist temples, everywhere I go, it just seems so dead, so lacking of. I'm thinking like, God ain't here, mate.
Mm-hmm.
But I know where he, and when I close my eyes,
You see him, you feel him.
God's in here. So what am I doing here? Now, if the guy that was there was an actual guide to help you develop your connection with God, to and we can share with each other and do godly things, great. But it's there to hear a dead message, a dead dogma. And so you go there and it's like, well, why not? Where's the sparring in this dojo? You know what I mean? Like I'm just watching the guy perform, and check this out. I'm the master.
Yeah, but where's the application? Yeah, where's the application? Let's see
Yeah,
it. Let's see it.
yeah. Here's my mojo. Watch my technique. Ooh, you can't touch me. Don't touch me. I'm too good for you. And
Yeah.
they develop these myths and shit like that. And I'm like, well, I want to spar, meaning like
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk to God. Well, guess
Yes.
what? The spirit, the kingdom of God is in you. Isn't that what Jesus said?
It's in you, it's outside of you, it's everywhere, it's even in the air, it's in the
Yeah.
leaves.
And so I started, but part of me growing up in the religion of, in Christianity, going to the both Catholic and Protestant churches, is
Mm-hmm.
that they always point to like anything that's kind of would be deemed that's mystical. They say, oh, you got to be careful with that because that's witchcraft. But I want
Occult.
to know where that
Apparently.
came from, witchcraft, because these are translated versions. You got people that were the religion of Wicca, which is what they consider witchcraft, which were nothing pretty much with people like freaking, using the herbs and stuff like that, and being mystical. So we don't know. We don't know if
Yeah.
there weren't experience. If here's my question: in those days, there were no Jesus people, dude, in some of those
No.
tribes. So you mean to tell me, I always have this question for God. Jesus was sent here to save the world, right? So okay, but you're telling me that if you don't accept Jesus, then you are going to go to hell. So this was my question always to the preachers. So see, Jesus came down here. Okay, so while he was in Israel sharing his message, and then he was crucified, then he rose after 3 days, and he ascended into heaven. Then you had all the apostles going to, but guess what? They weren't over in the Americas yet, mate.
Exactly.
So how about some of the people out there, like the Native Americans or other people? And I'm not talking. There's wicked. There were wicked people there too. People seem to think like all tribal people were good, and they were killing each other too, just as we
Good.
were. So don't try to make that seem all beautiful, like only Native people understand. No, they used to beat each other up and
No,
slaughter each
don't
other.
do that. Tribe.
Right. And so, but anyway, so you mean to tell me, so I used to ask the preacher, so, well, how about at the same time that this message was here and said, this person here, they accepted Jesus, but this person's heart was pure too and looking for a relationship with God. But guess what? Jesus hadn't made it over here. So how about this guy that died at the same time, but he was having a relationship with what he thought was God? Is he going to go to hell? Because if he did, I don't think that would be quite cool. I don't care how logical, oh, well, God has a plan. It's like, nah.
No, that's why sometimes I feel like some parts of the Bible, I don't know whether they've been doctored or something.
No, they
Because,
have been doctored. They have been doctored.
yeah, but when it says you can only get to the Father through Jesus, like that is very questionable, because it's like,
well, but
it looks like not everybody had access to Jesus. And
well, I think that what he was talking about is where he was there at the time. He was trying to enlighten people, and so you can get through the Father by me. But there's other parts where he's talking about the kingdom is within you, and maybe he was talking about the message. And so that's really important to really go to the ancient text and look at the translations and the meanings of the words, because again, the mysticism, you have the mystics that said, nah, you guys, this is all dogma, this is shambolics, mate. And so we're taking off to the caves. We're taking off to the caves, and we're going to have that relationship just like Abraham did and Moses, you know, talking to burning bushes and stuff like that. We want to have that relationship too. And of course, it requires a purification. Nobody's saying that, but it's there. And so those people became sought after and killed. You know, and so you have to worry about the Gnostic gospels and stuff like that.
But the mystics as well, when the mystics were doing their work, they knew that they were coming against harm. They knew that they were going against threats. And some people call them martyrs, you know, when they call them, this guy's a martyr. But I don't think that was what in their mind. They just lived a life of expressing what's in their hearts. And whatever the people are going to do to them, these people will accept it without fear.
Well, so, here's the thing. Well, so to try to interrupt you, mate.
Yeah.
The mystics never wanted to be martyrs, mate, because the mystics knew that the message that were throwing out to it was being thrown out to the swines. And so they decided, well, okay, they're not going to accept this, then we're going to separate ourselves and develop our spirituality. Those who want to seek and already can come, because if you can't accept it, then don't come. And that's where why are these people hiding over here? You can see it amongst the Pythagoreans, that Pythagoras, you know, where he had his own little sect, and he was like, there's a certain character that needs to be developed before you enter this, because this is a serious path. And so we can't just be throwing our seeds out to the swine, because they're just going to trample on it. And so that's where I think is, oh, well, these people are dangerous. What are you doing in hiding in secret? Well, mate, if we don't take off and try to preserve this goodness, you're going to take our balls off, you know, and I don't want to lose me balls, because the message is going to be lost.
Exactly. At the wrong time as well. Exactly. Because it's also about the longevity of how long you're spreading the message. Because once they take you, who knows when somebody else is going to come to replace you with a similar message.
Yes.
We're not that indispensable sometimes, you know. Sometimes our messages are so important that we need to fight the good fight. We need to go as far as we can go, and we have to preserve the message, which is ourselves.
Yeah, you can't just go off and kamikaze with the little scroll up your butt and then explode, because then you're gonna lose the message. You know what I mean?
We'll be in prison in 24 hours, man.
Yeah.
And well, no one is listening to that in there.
Well, we're gonna go back to the mystics and stuff like that. And as I was talking about Pythagoras, you know, a lot of the practices, because I think I've heard this: be still and hear God. There's something in the Bible that says, I can't recall the text, but you find that in all the texts in Buddhism, talk about the stillness of the mind. Be quiet and hear God. And in this era of hyperactivity, hyper interactions with the media, if you look at our movies now, remember the old movies, mate, the older movies, where they had like great shots, and they can have a still shot and hold the background that was beautiful while having a conversation, right? And then you can focus on one scene for a while, right? But now, if you notice, like movies, it's like the camera's inside of a freaking blender, mate, and that blender
Yeah,
is inside of a freaking doom buggy on an unpaved road, you know.
and everything is vibrating, everything is flicking, flickering everywhere.
And you can't really concentrate. Like if you look at action movies now, like in the old days, you can actually watch the action in a movie. Now you don't know what's happening, especially with superhero movies. Like, what am I looking at?
Moving too fast, you have to keep rewinding, and you're still not seeing what they did.
Yeah,
we can't even how they did that.
And so more and more, the mind, we're losing control of the mind. And what the old mystics and within all the books, they all talked about silence. And I think that's what the Sabbath was all about too. Like, hey, on this day, from this time to this time, just as God rested, just be still. Don't do anything. Don't work. And I'm thinking about starting that practice, following a Sabbath. And you don't have to be Jewish to follow the Sabbath, but there was something beautiful about that. And I'm gonna, you know, of course I have my family to think about, but when I move out to the farm, I'm gonna tell them, like, look, I'm trying to develop myself this way, and if you want to follow me, that's great. I'm not gonna push it on you. But on this day, once a week, brother, yeah, go.
My mom's knocking. I'll be 2 seconds.
Yes, no worries, mate. Interesting conversation, and I ran out of water. So we have no sponsors. So you'll have no commercials. Okay, mate. Well, we'll be done in a few minutes. Okay. And so anyway, and I'm thinking about
maintaining the Sabbath
on that within that day, you know, from Friday evening to Saturday evening, I'm not going to use fire. I'm not going to listen to the radio. I'm not going to sing. I'm not going to dance. I'm going to eat a very limited kind of food. I'm not going to work and you know, it's amazing because I've been reading like the book that we just ordered, you know, the Kabbalion, and it's talking about that, right?
Yes.
There's something about that. Oh, actually, no, I was watching a video on the Kabbalion, and there was a guy that started doing that, and he says, you would be amazing how recharged, you will be amazed on how recharged your body becomes as you still and you calm down.
Have you heard that verse in the Bible that says, the Lord leads me to still waters,
yeah,
to restore it my.
Dude, yeah, the Psalms, mate, the Psalms, you know. Yeah, the Lord
leaded me to still waters, he restored my soul.
Yeah, the Lord is the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Yeah, and he leadeth me to still waters, and all those messages.
And that restores my soul.
Yes. And well, you gave me a good a new meaning to that, a new understanding to that. And it's not, and it's funny because when you go to the established churches, it's all dogma, and they're using the scriptures, you know, and guess what? We can also get understanding from it if we just still our minds. And so what we want to leave you guys with is, you know, start practicing. I'm not saying that to throw out your television. Nobody's that drastic. There's some advantages that we have now, and we're not going back to sticking bones in our noses. It's just not going to happen. You know,
have improved. We have improved along the way.
Yes, but you know, there's also a part of us that's connected to nature. And I'm not talking hippie nonsense or anything like that. And I'll say it again, hippie nonsense, where it's all like commercialized and it's all become fashion. It's like, ooh, I'm so groovy and stuff like that. I'm talking about just the real connection that we have. You don't have to adapt a certain way of fashion and wear baggy tie-dyes and stuff like that. You can still have like regular shorts or a suit. If you want to walk in there in a suit, or take it off, and just, you know, it's not about dogma, but we need to get back to that silence, that balance, so that we can do better things with the technological advancements that we have. And part of that is starting to get that mysticism, or that, let's not even mysticism, let's just say that stillness. And so we're going to leave you with one of the main things is that you want to take control of your mind again. So ladies and gentlemen, take your mind back. It's been stolen, it's been hijacked, and it is your mind, and you can use it for good things to that could not only be good for yourself, but to humanity at large. But first, you need to hone it, and you need to get back in there. So we're going to talk about mind control, and we're going to start with the first thing, motionless. So we're going to leave you with this exercise, and we're going to do this exercise until the next one. So we're going to master it and go on this developing and this journey together. And the whole purpose is, and here is 15 minutes if you can do it the longest. And on the new book that we got, a good thing to do is eventually if you can hold it for 30 minutes. But what you want to do is to start off with 5 minutes, find a position that is comfortable for you.
So you could whether lying down, whichever position.
Yeah, whether it's sitting down, more than likely it's going to be sitting down or being lying down, lotus, or lying down, standing up.
As long as you don't fall asleep.
Yes. So start off with 5 minutes, and it's okay if you do fall asleep. Just try not to go that way. What we're trying to do is not only be emotional, induce that relaxation. This is not a breathing exercise yet, but get your breath a little bit and focus on the breathing. Follow your own breathing pattern. Just lie down, and the whole experience is to remain motionless. Even if you get an itch, don't move your tongue. Try to be be still for 5 minutes. The next day, a little bit more, until at the end of the week, you can do close to 30 minutes, between 15 to 30 minutes. Make the time. It's your time. And that kind of time in stillness is not a waste of time.
Never.
Okay, well, what do you give me?
Taking our mind back. That's us coming back to who we really are.
Yeah, so give me a little, before we go, give me some input on what you think the positive aspects, or what you think we're going to learn or we're going to gain from this exercise that we're going to partake in for this next week. Motionlessness.
So this motionless exercise is a very good one, actually. What I believe we stand to gain from mastering this is we're going to learn real body awareness. This is something that people really overlook. Some people think they know where their knee is. Some people think they know where their hips are. You don't. You don't know where your fingers are. Just because you're moving them, you don't know where it is. So when you get to this point of motionless, you're going to re-acclimatize yourself with yourself. You're going to start discovering yourself, because it's at that moment of stillness, you're going to start seeing what it is that is causing agitation in you, what it is that is shaking, that is bubbling inside you. You're going to start to notice it. You're going to start to notice what is causing problems in your body. You're going to also notice what is good in your body. You can notice the bits of your body that relax with no effort. So this is taking us back to self-awareness, I believe. The major thing we're going to gain from this practice is self-awareness.
Man, it was an awesome one. And the podcast keep getting better. It's a journey of discovery.
Yes.
Where hopefully we're going to get a few guests coming on. If not next week, the week after that, we're going to get Mr. Chris Man.
Yes, the bull worker.
The bull worker. And so, but anyway, we hope that those watching learn a lot, and we extend an invitation to you. We want to hear your tales. This podcast is about listening to the tales of different people, their different lives, everyday walk kind of people, and their experiences, their triumphs, their failures, and the journey along, their talents, to hear them, and so we can learn something to further develop, to be able to get to the eventual day of taking off, mate.
Yes.
So anyway, okay, it's been wonderful, man. I love this one. Was great.
Yes, likewise.
Okay, matey. Well, like always, we're making the friction. That's right, to get that heat stay in the flow, and keep bearing the light. Keep it jungly, and peace and love. And like always, Kay, I'm gonna go ahead and give you a call real quick on Messenger just for a few minutes, okay?
Yes, brother.
Okay. Cheers, guys. Peace and love, and see you next week.
Yep.